Whole meeting, May 18th, 2026. Time is 7 p.m. Mr. Ott, will you please call the roll?
Member Pierpont.
Here.
Member Orr. Here. Member Wyrick.
Here.
Member Matheny.
Here.
Member McClister.
Here.
Member Pratt.
Here.
Member Stalker.
Here.
7 present.
Excellent. Well, tonight's committee of the whole is a one-person show. Finance and Property Committee. The floor is yours.
All right, for those who don't like hearing my voice, I apologize in advance. So you hear from me a couple times this evening. So first item we have, which is item 3A. And so let me pull this out. So basically what this is an amendment which is necessary because of our standard insurance reimbursement rates have changed. And this is from talking with Gina. This is around certain medical supplies that we have in the ambulance. And so they were not set in our budget as the proper amount. So we're just sort of changing the way that we are doing things. We're going to allow Ohio Billing to kind of take a little bit more of a lead with setting the prices for what we seek reimbursement from insurance. So I don't know, did I kind of hit the high points on that? Anything to add, Jim?
Yep, you did a good job.
Okay.
Basically, it's a housekeeping to make sure that the EMS billing schedule is current and that we're billing to sit consistently with the insurance standards and what they allow.
Mhm.
It's allowing Ohio Billing to do their job. So.
Right. And because we want to be paid what we are spending, we're asking this to be an emergency just to make sure that we can get this rolling right away. So any questions from anybody else?
How far off were we?
I don't have that example right here, but it's close, but it's minimal. It's minimal, but we still want to make sure we're charging the correct rates that we can be charging. When they increase, instead of having to come back to council to increase the rates, we want to be able to charge the correct rates of that cost, and Ohio Billing to do that.
Yep, so there's no lag as things change.
Okay.
Keeping up with current rates. And everything's going on.
All right, any other questions or thoughts? I've moved that we send item 3A to the council agenda.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 3B is also finance.
All right, let me look to my notes. All right, so this is an appropriation item, and so there's some things we're altering or adding into the budget. First were some donations. We had $300 in donations for Kona. There also were $14,000 in America 250 donations, sponsorships, grants, etc. So we did add that in. And then the other item is we had entered into years ago, somebody could add in maybe the year, when Akron Children's Hospital built the building over there on Glenwood, through a tax item, they give us $10,000 each year, which is to go towards a performing arts pavilion. So we're just putting that money into the appropriate Parks Development Fund. And that is earmarked specifically for performing arts pavilion. Anything?
I just have a quick question. What happens with that fund if we don't ever create a performing arts
So
pavilion?
it has to be used specifically for, in this case, the Performing Arts Pavilion. So at some point we'll want to, because they're donating and earmarking that to. that
So it's just
specific
kind of
budget.
building up a
Yep,
fund right
exactly.
now? Okay, all right.
And how long has that been going on?
I want to
Since
say,
approximately 2018.
yeah, I was gonna say, is that 18 or 19?
Is it the same amount every year?
It changes based off what their income tax or their employees.
Payrolls.
payroll.
Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you. No.
Any other questions? All right, and I would move that we add item 3B to the council agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And again, item 3C, finance.
All right, so this is, item 3C is fixing a typographical error in regards to, this is specifically the ordinance updates the schedules to properly incorporate a 2.8% cost of living increase. I think we said, Jim, it was in there for 2.7.
Yeah, it was 2.7 original, so the way.
Which was a placeholder.
It's a placeholder, so the way the budget's built is COLA. So chapter 155, which is all the max salaries of all the exempt positions. the COLA is built into that, so whatever COLA goes up in the third quarter of each year is what, gets put into the budget. And so we had a placeholder of 2.7, and then we adjusted that when we knew what that was in the 2026 budget to 2.8%. And then through, ordinance amendments, the last two, 12/2026 and 13/2026, we used the wrong essentially spreadsheet that had the 2.7 that was, in there originally. And so for auditor purposes, we need to put it back to what it was supposed to be at 2.8%.
And everybody's been paid correctly.
Yes.
It's just a typo in
Yes.
paperwork that said 2.7, so.
Yeah, so just correcting, that's, why we're asking for emergency on this one, so. All right, so I would, move we add item 3C to the council agenda.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 3D, guess where it's going?
All right, so this is an exciting one. So this is in regards to our new fire station, and this is the maximum price agreement, which is with Beaver Constructors. And so this is for the physical construction of the building, and they set a grand total not to exceed price of $11,469,883.89. So that means that it would cost that or less. So, and also did just want to throw in there that this also does not include some other, so like architectural renderings or
Furniture.
engineering drawings, furniture, things like that. So, but this is for the physical building. So exciting things for sure.
I think there's a list of items and things that's not included in that. It's not part of
Yeah.
the soft
Yeah.
billing, but we don't know what those are, so.
So they're itemized in there.
Mhm.
It's over 2 million in soft costs, and those are estimates.
Right.
Like you said, there'll be furniture, fixture, equipment, like say 50,000, they might spend that, they might not, but we've appropriated that money.
And I think the total cost, if I remember correctly, was gonna be probably right around 13.5 million. That would be all in with those soft costs and everything else.
Yeah, so what you're approving is the GMP, which is 11,469,883.89. Soft costs are estimated at 2,036,540 for a total of 13,506,423.89. That's the overall project cost.
Does anybody have any questions?
I guess I do. So what was the total on the bonds, the bond issue? 14.
So we're under that at 13.5. And like you said, the GMP is the guaranteed maximum price.
Mhm.
And in a CMR arrangement, there's obviously an incentive for the construction manager. If they, they don't want to go over that, because if they go over it, that's all we pay. That's what's nice, is that guarantees for us that we only pay that maximum price. So there's incentive if they come under, then that's good for them.
Does anybody have any additional questions?
Just to clarify, what's the overall expected timeline?
It's, the completion date is July of 27. I think originally was July 18th, but in your packet, there's a Gantt chart in there, and it shows every single step along the way in the project that's projected under the scope. And it's looking like about July 28th of 27. Of course, you never know northeastern Ohio weather, if that's gonna be extended, or if they work quickly, it could come in before that. That's the time frame. And as a reminder, we are doing the groundbreaking ceremony in next 2 weeks from now, June 2nd. With Beaver Construction. And we will have people from the Hoover Foundation there, since they gave a
Have
significant
you set the
donation.
time for that yet?
In the morning, I think. I don't know if we have a time set yet. I think it's in mid-morning. We'll let you know when we get the actual time.
I think that's a Tuesday, right?
I think so, yeah.
Daughter's getting her wisdom tooth out that day, so hopefully I can.
Oh, yeah.
So never know. All right, so if there are no other questions, I would move we add item 3 to the council agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I believe finance has completed the tasks of the committee of the whole meeting. I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
on to the next.
You want to take a brief break or you want to get right into it?
I think we can move right into it. That was not a very long meeting.
Okay.
We've been waiting.
Time out.
Take one of those off.
You got it.
Now call to order the city council meeting of May 18th, 2026. The time is 7:10. Tonight's opening prayer. Do we have somebody for that?
Not having
Sarah
anybody lined
Hecker,
up.
she would love to do it. But she's over there like, don't nominate me.
That's fine. I've never been to a council meeting before, but just right here, right now.
That would be.
She was going with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Wow. I used to be a paid Christian and work for a church, so. Okay. Lord Jesus, we just thank you so much for this beautiful day that we hopefully all enjoyed. Just grateful that I can be here and present with our city council members and other concerned citizens, and just grateful for our North Canton community, all that everyone does every day to pour into our community, the people that live here and the visitors that come. Lord, we just pray that this is a place that is welcoming and inclusive and just vibrant, and people want to be here. We just thank you for our community, pray that you keep it safe, and pray that our meeting is productive tonight. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Al, will you call the roll?
Member Pierpont.
Here.
Member Orr.
Here.
Member Lyric.
Here.
Member Matheny.
Here.
Member Pleister.
Here.
Member Pratt.
Here.
Member Stocker.
Here.
7 present.
Excellent. I will make a motion to approve as presented the minutes from April 27th, committee of the whole, and May 4th, 2026, city council meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consideration is carried. Okay. At this time, city council invites the finance department to the floor for a special presentation.
Awesome. Liam, you want to talk? Okay. So we want to talk about the income tax transition as pertains to street paving, and as well as the 1.6 million that was brought up a few weeks ago. We just want to talk about kind of how this transition has gone and what we're looking for in the future. So if you look at the timeline, we're going to start November of 2024. That's the renewal of the street levy property tax, failed at the ballot. This generated approximately $400,000 every year. So that failed. So then following that, council members passed a resolution in December of 2024 to put on a 0.5% income tax increase and do away with the fire, EMS, and the street levy, and also fund the new fire station construction. So we need to talk about these property tax levies because they're collected 1 year behind and we receive them the following year. So in 2024, they were collected, and in 2025, we received them. And that was approximately $400,000 like we talked about. At the end of 2024, the city had approximately $1.6 million left over unspent in the general fund. That amount was added to the general fund balance, and in early 2025, that 1.6 million was talked about publicly about a one-time savings that could potentially be used for the street paving for 4 years. So it'd be $400,000 for 4 years added to street paving. Holly correctly pointed that out a few weeks ago when we talked about that. So then in May 2025, the 0.5% income tax passed. This thing, increase in the city's income tax was 1.5 to 2%. Collection starting this year, so January 2026. During July and August of 2025, the finance department worked on the sale of bonds for the new fire station. The city's formal general fund policy required a minimum balance of 25%. And I can get into that more detail in the future. We're getting into the weeds, but we can talk about it another time. But however, the city's bond rating, S&P Global, told us that our current, so we had a 38% carryover. That was too low, which included that $1.6 million that we just spoke about left over in the general fund. So keeping those dollars in the fund balance helps support the city's financial position and resulted in a positive outlook for the city. We went from a AA minus neutral to a AA minus with a positive outlook. So those bonds were successfully sold and the city then moved into the 2026 budget process. So then, Liam, if you want to go to the next slide, we're going to talk about the budget transition here. So in 2026, 2027, and 2028 budgets, they should be viewed as transition years. The city's moving away from property tax and into the new 2% income tax structure. The general fund income tax is committed to replacing the fire, EMS, street levy revenue, which totals $2.7 million per year. In addition, the general fund comes up with $1 million per year for the debt payment for the fire station for the next 25 years. However, the new income tax revenue does not just come in all at once. There's a timing lag affecting cash flow. So in 2026, collections from the new income tax projected to be $555,000 less than what that property tax levy revenue would have brought in. It's just a cash flow issue. It's not lost. It'll come over time. And then on top of that, 2026 to the 27 pay period, which creates additional one-time costs for the general fund of approximately $309,000. Again, the general fund has the first $1 million debt payment for the fire station bonds. Because of the collection timing issues and one-time pressures on the general fund, finance cannot recommend earmarking an additional $400,000 for street paving in 2026. The last collection of the previous street levy was available, the normal amount of $400,000 in the 2026 budget, and that is what is in the 2026 budget, the $400,000 that we will be spending on Apple Grove and 9th and Weber in conjunction with water line replacement projects. So in the additional $400,000 street paving is delayed until 2027 in the city's capital improvement plan. So the key point here is the timing issue. It's not a loss of funding. The new 0.5% income tax will phase in over multiple years. Employers begin withholding at the new 2% rate in 2026. And individual taxpayers will not fully catch up until they file their taxes in April of next year. So by fiscal year 2028, the city should be collecting the full benefit of the 2% income tax. So in summary, the city is in a transition period. The former property tax levies have ended, where the new income tax is passed, but the revenue doesn't arrive fully. During this transition, the city must also manage the fire station debt payment, 27 pay year, and maintain a strong general fund balance for S&P Global for a bond rating. So that's why the additional $400,000 for street paving wasn't added to the 2026 budget.
I did fail to mention Ms. Albeck and City Law Director are online. Thank you, Gina, for tying in. I know you're on vacation today. I've got a question, then we're gonna open it up to everybody. When you said 25%, that's 25% of our annual spending budget?
General fund revenue.
General fund revenue?
Yep.
Okay, and we were at 38%, and then the bond people wanted us to be even higher.
Yep. So we're currently like 58, 57%. So
financially, we're in a good spot.
Yeah,
Just the timing issue.
finance feels really well about our general fund balance and the finances overall, so. It's just a transition, like you don't automatically get the 2%, it phases in and, we're excited for the future. It's just a timing.
Other questions?
Well, many of us ran, our elections during that, and we were telling people, I thought we'd get an additional 400,000. So now what do I tell them? Is the city gonna come out with this plan publicly?
That's what we're doing right now and explaining it.
So we still have 400,000 and it's just pushed back to 2027, 2028, 2029. 2030.
And be clear, there's still residential road paving happening. And if you think about $400,000, we had Matt Morrow, our superintendent from our street department here at our last meeting, and he put up the pictures and showed the new milling machine, and that was $300,000. In addition, we purchased $130,000 in asphalt. That's $430,000 right there, and that is being used for road paving. So that's there. You know, a few years prior, we had purchased the paver machine, and we got the milling
Right.
machine to go along with it. So we are still doing a lot of work. I mean, every pothole that's filled, every crack that's sealed, that
understand.
is residential road repair and paving.
We've filled about, what, 150 potholes now?
It's somewhere around 170.
170?
Mm-hmm.
Where did those funds come from? Because I know the voters defeated the streets levy in 2024,
Mhm.
right? So are those funds that we're spending in 2026 left over from that, or?
So it starts over, so the budget starts over and they
Okay.
put in an asphalt budget, which is higher than last year. And so, part of those, oh my gosh, doing the, oh my gosh.
The projection.
No, doing the, asphalt repairs.
Yeah.
Budget.
Okay.
So is that essentially, does that essentially equal out to being like $400,000 that was committed from the general fund? I mean, because
Yeah.
we didn't have the income tax in yet? the
It's
income
hard to
tax
tell
increase?
because it's only May still. So
Okay.
I mean, we could, if the reader rules come in a little bit higher, we could add additional money to the
Okay.
asphalt.
Uh-huh.
But another issue is planning. I mean, it takes longer than 7 months to plan some streets, especially when you're tying with a sewer grant, water grant. We want to be smart about the money we spend. And the planning process sometimes takes a little bit longer than that too. And I think the key word is earmarked, you know.
Yeah.
I think finance felt uncomfortable earmarking, but as the money comes in, we could be able to spend it.
My understanding is the budget for Rob and engineering is a lot of times matching money for grants. And then Matt has his paving budget, sealing budget, which is all part of streets, but it's in two different buckets.
Correct.
And I think we probably need to rewrite the semantics of using residential paving because we don't separate residential paving from paving. It's all paving. So when people say, you know, what is residential paving, then you have to go and define it. But 40 tons of crack sealing and 170 potholes would mostly go under residential paving probably. So we need to get way of the semantics of defining that because I think it's really problematic.
I think it's street maintenance and paving, but it's in two different buckets.
Uh-huh.
Rob's is there for grant money and matching our share to make sure we don't lose out on that.
Right.
And then Matt's are there to fix potholes, sealing.
Capital one maintenance, yeah.
And Rob's are usually larger projects that at times do require a lot more planning. Sometimes a consultant is needed, whereas the smaller ones can just length times width and they can, you know, do it with the equipment we have. And there's we trust our engineer who's been doing this a long time too in the assessment of what's needed. So people always want to, when is my street? What is my street? You know, he does have to look at the most traveled main thoroughfares and arteries, you know, and then make his assessment that way. And then he goes to SCATs and has to, you know, again, work with grants available out there and plan these out several years ahead.
What was our total, that Apple Grove project, we got a grant for that?
Yeah.
What was our cost from the city?
Yeah, it was-
50,000?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Rob makes our money go a long way with his grants. So,
I was thinking it came in at like 850 and we run up 50 or not mistaken.
Any other questions for finance?
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say on this topic. So this is a reactive conversation that we're having because it was promised to the citizens back in January of 2025, and it was put out there in multiple formats by city and campaign committee people that, hey, if you vote yes on this issue, we will put this money forward and we will have residential paving. I believe that citizens hear the words residential paving and they think just that, it's gonna be near my residence. And I can tell you that as I stood here as a citizen and asked this council at the time to please include some additional funding for that, that's absolutely what I was talking about. Because I also talked about how poorly my street is crumbling. And so I don't know that I like getting rid of the residential paving title entirely. I think there does need to be some form of separation for the average citizen to understand what they're getting for their tax dollar. I don't think that pothole filling holds a lot of value to me at this point. Crack sealing is something that I'm sure we need to maintain our roads and keep them good, but it also does not hold much value to probably the average person. What holds value to them is, did their street actually get paved? And that's not happening. So we have some alleys that are getting done. I'm going to take a guess that that's on those high priority lists for a reason. I'm not a streets expert, but we're not paving actual residents' roads, and that's what was promised. So it's my understanding that we've had discussions along the way where maybe this was included in the budget discussions, but yet when the questions have been asked here on the floor of council over the last few months, nobody's been able to say, this is why that money's not available. And that's concerning. And so I did pick up the phone and call finance last Monday, and it did lead to this presentation. And Jim, I really do think you did a great job of putting this together. It makes a lot of sense now. But it's unfortunate that if we knew back then during budget planning, which forgive me, it's September, October, somewhere around then last year, then we knew about this back then, but we didn't tell anybody about it. And so just as much as we had people say, go vote for this levy and, or this issue, and we'll pave some roads, we should have come back to them then and said, we've got a little change of plans here, and here's why. And I think the average person would have understood this and said, yeah, with that bond rating piece is important to the city, it makes sense. But we did not tell anybody, and it's why the questions are coming up here on council and why there's been some, I think, degree of frustration. So I just want to say, it's unfortunate it took this long to get this information. I don't want to lose sight of what is, to me, one of the most basic services this city could provide its citizens, and that's its streets. And their long-term delays that we've seen, I've lived at my residence for 16 years and my road is still not paved. I don't know how much longer mine's gonna go, but I know there's others just as bad. I was approached by a citizen at the 720 over the weekend, specifically about Pershing. And so this is important to people, and equally important to them is probably clarity and transparency when something this important to them changes. And I think that, you know, the city probably could have offered up that information sooner. So we're here now and we understand it. And I think when we get to budget planning at the end of this year, we need to come back to this and say, are we still on par? Are we still on schedule to meet the timeline we just said we were going to meet? And just make sure as we're getting closer to that, it's following the way that we thought it would.
Just to be clear with the community was, you know, like we said, that was mentioned so far back in, you know, July of 24, right?
November.
And then the changes and, you know, on council, I think we had some changes to the chair of finance at that time. This was all discussed in budget. Everybody that was here on council, this was all discussed. You don't remember Gina talking about the 27 pays and the carryover and how long it would take for the incremental time for the taxes, for the increase on the income tax to come in?
I remember having that discussion.
Yeah, we
but I don't
mentioned a
remember
lot of that
specifically talking about
in the budget.
the road issue being delayed.
I think that that would be something that would probably stick in most people's minds. And so they wouldn't then ask the question, where is the money? Because it had already been said to them. Similarly, I would expect that the city would have that fresh in their mind. And when the question's asked, it'd be an easy answer. So I don't know what was discussed in budget, but it clearly did not hit home with most people. Thus, all these recent questions.
Yeah, I would have liked to found out sooner about it, just because, it's what people selected, voted for. So any change, you know, I would think that, as soon as that was, you know, a thought we would share. I also appreciate this information. It's not the way that I would like to have gone, but it is what it is.
I think it's complex to explain, as you can see. So I think whenever asked before, I don't want to speak for finance, but when Jim and Gina before, I think it's complex. It takes this level of having to break it down to explain it. So I think that's why maybe saying it wasn't so a readily available answer was maybe just because it is so complex. So I think you did a great job, and I hope is it clear now? Does everyone understand?
We will definitely make it a priority for 2027.
Mhm.
Well, and I would suggest when each of you go through the budget process and you have your priorities, because that's always asked. You make that to a point that finance earmarks that. I mean, you guys control the purse.
When did finance find out about it?
What do you mean by that? Like,
That the original plan was gonna be delayed?
Some of them during budget season.
yeah, it was, like he said, it was all three of these things. It was realizing a 26 pay is now a 27 pay. Gina came to the budget meetings to say, this is an anomaly, happens every, 11, 12 years, whatever. So that's an increase. Like Jim mentioned, that with S&P recommending that we have a higher carryover than we ever normally had before, because we've never really ever built a building of $14 million or gone out to buy bonds. That was all new process, and learning that, and S&P being our bond consultant, really telling us that we had to have a higher carryover. She came to budgets meetings. And for those of you that are new on council, we meet individually with each council person. And that's what Matt is mentioning, is that we say, what are your priorities? What do you see? What do you want? What do you need? And then we look at the whole budget. We're looking at all of the different departments. We've met with all of our department heads saying, this is everything they need. These are projects. Here's our capital plan. And then we try to work it all in. There's several iterations. Things get cut. You always hear, come in with a wish list, and then the things get cut that can't happen. So that would be at that time in the budget when we were talking about all of this. And Gina kept saying this. We made this statement. We kept saying, when you get a raise, it's a great raise, but you don't get it all in the first paycheck. It comes in incrementally over all your paychecks. That's what's happening with our income tax.
So what I'm hearing is there were two separate anomalies that occurred that finance was not 100% aware of at the time that any campaign was going on, or any statements were being made, or any budgets were being voted on by council. Would that be a correct statement?
I would say at the time of the budget, we found that this year's a 27 pay year.
Yeah.
And then figuring out the income tax, we found that it would collect $555,000 less than the property tax would collect that would have collected. And then I would say then with the fire station $1 million bond, we have to be able to fund that bond. So since there's a timing lag, that's essentially why we were able to fund an additional $400,000.
I mean, we could say that maybe just mistakes were made, right?
I think whenever, I always think of something, when people make a statement, they make it a statement with the information that they have at that time.
Right.
Just like a decision you make with the information you have in that moment, it seems like a great decision, then 20/20 hindsight, it
Yeah.
wasn't. And so when Ben said that, did he know there were 27 pays? No. Did he understand, what we would have to do with the carryover? Probably not. And also that lag, he may not have knew the number or calculated out the number that it would be for the lag on the income
I would
tax.
say communication definitely is good.
And so I obviously wasn't on council at the time voting
Yeah.
for the budget, but I was here as a resident watching, and I certainly recall the discussions about the income tax being collected in arrears and the timing of such. So, Jim, I appreciate the fact that you put all this together, that you're explaining it. I wish that we had arrived at this sooner, but I don't know. I guess I appreciate what you're doing here, Tim, and I appreciate the explanation to help us. Yes.
I would say, going back, one of the things that we could have fixed is, and still can, when there are new council members in, they should get the budget as presented from stage 1 through an individual sitting down instead of just the overview. I think that would have helped, especially at that time. I think that would have helped everybody. I think going forward, we need to do something like that.
Just to be clear, though, I think that because we were so vocal as a city with the citizens that this additional funding had been located and allocated, not allocated yet, excuse me, to be earmarked for that purpose, it would have been just as easy to say when we discovered we could no longer meet that timeline to say that on the floor of council. I don't lose sight of that part of it because it's very important to people to understand that we're going to give them that information when we learn it and not 8 months later. Mr. Young did cover with us on the floor at that time the additional amount of pays that year. I specifically remember that in his presentation. He covered a lot of these anomalies. So the only one that I'm concerned about is the 1.6 carryover that apparently was going to be delayed due to the bond rating. The explanation makes complete sense. It's the delay in getting that information that's frustrating. The rest of it, the extra pays, the waiting for the new income, to generate revenue, the taxes, all of that makes sense. I think we all are comfortable with that part of it. So just to clarify, it's really just this 1.6. And now we know. And so to your point, I'm going to bring it up when I have my one-on-one discussion as a council person, but I shouldn't really have to, right? Because we're having this conversation now and it's on the books. It's public record. This is our plan. It should already be there, hopefully, and I won't need to bring it up. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Just one clarification, the bond rating was after Ben left. We did not have the
Yes,
bond
that
rating on
was. That sounds like
And then
that was in
something
the
else
summer.
just to consider too, the street levy failed. And people really want the roads and they want them nice, but when they were asked, it failed. We were shocked. Remember that was when the first fire station, was on and the street levy. So we were at a watch party and we didn't know how fire station would go, but we were like, we always pass the street levy. And it shocked us when it did not pass. So that was tough. We were already trying to think about what were we going to do because that money wasn't coming in through a street levy that had always come in before. So it was I think you said it, perfect storm kind of a lot of things. We've never built a $14 million fire station and gone out for bonds, 26-year, 27 cycle pay and, getting a new income tax. We had to increase the income tax here also in 50 years or whatever. So it's kind of all new things that happened all at once.
And especially if you consider our capital carryover rate was already very high, and then we had to put it even higher. But, the opportunity, like the best way to explain this is if we did earmark that money, spend it, and didn't carry over the additional amount, what would it cost us? Maybe, 0.2%, 0.3%? Which on $14 million, that's a lot of money over 30 years. I mean, so, the fiscal responsible answer was to not earmark that money. And also it's May, we could still spend that, depending on what our reader rules are going to be. But it sure would have been bad to not get that rate that we got compared to, what it could have been. And if we didn't earmark that money, if we didn't have that money in the carryover, we wouldn't have got that rate.
And I know Rob is looking forward to, if his projects coming in under cost, carrying over some of these to use for paving next year. So he thinks it's very beneficial to go at it for next year based off the economies of scale to do asphalt and paving for these roads. So that's one thing we've talked about with Rob about on our budget items.
When were the bonds? When did we discover that we needed to have that account balance raised?
Yeah, so that would have been in July or August when we went through the S&P bond rating.
So last year.
Yeah.
So we would have known this
Going into budget.
presentation
Going into
to have
budget.
this a year ago.
Yeah.
We informally did, again, in all the budget meetings, each person was talking about these 3 items. This was brought up in the budget meetings. So yes, should we have done a better job when the new council members got on after all these conversations were had to make sure you knew that? Yeah, that's what I said, is like, we do an orientation now. In the past, we said people would be elected and we would just say, good luck, figure it out. And it's a lot to learn. And Ben started an orientation and Liam's made it his own. And I think he balances a line of not overwhelming you with too much information, but giving you the right amount. But like Matt said, to that point, we also learned, we should vote, the budget should be given, and then probably even more detail what was discussed, because you missed all those conversations. So these things were discussed.
You keep saying that this was discussed. I'm sorry, I remember talking about the 27 week pay or the 27th pay. I remember talking about how the money would be collected in arrears. Maybe I was just zoning out at that point in time, but I really do not remember
About the
the fact that we
carryover?
were delaying the $1.6 million. I really don't. So I think it's maybe everybody else, maybe all my colleagues will raise their hand and say they do remember it. I mean, Dave, Christina, John, do you remember? Because
No, I don't remember, and I remember the
So-
other things. We did not.
I remember the discussion on how the income tax is gonna be collected and how it was gonna come up short. Because it reminded me of Mr. Stroya's comment when we were going down this path is there's no guarantee we're gonna have money for any paving of roads
Right.
the first year.
And we have to collect the money before we can spend it. And I think, Christina, if you recall, there were a lot of great parks things you wanted, and you said, why does this carryover have to be so big?
Right.
You know, it feels like it's a lot. It feels like it's a lot, because I thought 25% was good, then I thought 38% was really good. And then when, you know, Gina came out and was explaining all this about the bonds, and we've never built anything to this size. Gina has, in Louisville, you know, she's gone through this before, so this was something she knew of. She knew how to do this bond process and how to get the bond consultant and listen to what they're telling us, because to what Matt said, you know, not having to get, you know, possibly purchase the insurance or have people not even bid on them. And so when she was explaining that, do you remember that? We were like, this carryover, you kept saying, can we cut it down a little bit so we could do more things? We had projects that got cut because of the carryover being so big.
We
And
had-
I guess,
Go ahead.
Jamie, I remember being told that we did not have the money for the streets, that it wasn't gonna be in now. I don't remember which of the monies it was, but I remember being told this is going to be delayed. And I guess, you know, I'm looking back at my notes from whenever I was doing the issue 4 speaking tour. And what I said is that North Canton City Council has also committed to allocating an additional $400,000 in existing income tax revenue to residential street paving, bringing the total budget for paving up to an estimated $800,000 per year, double what we currently have with the tax levy, which is expiring. So I said, you know, it will be 4 years. I don't know if our resolution that we did said it was gonna be starting in 26, or did we just say for 4 years? I'm not sure.
I'd say
Okay,
that's
the
still-
next 4 years, I don't know, but we're still going to
Yeah,
have that,
I'd
right?
say,
We're
I'd
gonna
say
have
that's
4
still
years.
the plan.
It's still 4
Bond
years.
rating, we had to have-
Yeah.
And to
Yeah, we're
answer
just-
your
yeah.
to that
question,
point, I mean, the residents we are still going to be delivering.
If anything, it's
Yeah.
delayed,
But
that's
it's
all,
just
right,
delayed.
yeah. But again, it's still May.
Right.
to your question though, it was until last Monday on the city's website still, under the issue for FAQ, that the additional 400,000 would be there for 26 through
It is
29.
26 to
It
29.
was there until very recently and it has been removed. So, yeah, it was not just there. It was in the newspaper in a couple different articles. It was spoken about here on more than one occasion. So it was used to promote issue 4. That's why it's that important to me that we're having this conversation now and probably should have had a long time ago. And to my peers sit next to me, I trust that all of you would have answered these questions along the way as we were asking them, had you been told that information and understood it that way. So I'm not sitting here in any format thinking you guys knew about it and didn't say anything. That's certainly, I don't believe to be the case. So,
For months.
sure, we've been asking about it for months is right. There's 4 or 5 meetings where we've asked about this on the floor. So I want to reiterate that it's about that and only that for me, and the rest of it we know is going to come to us. And so, you know, we'll just stick with this plan and hope that this works exactly as it's written. And if not, I hope that we get an update when we find out that we cannot.
Yeah, what we have is a 4-year plan delayed in a perfect world. And we all know that we don't live in a perfect world. If something were to happen year 1, year 3, year 4, and it causes a delay, we still need to get to that commitment. But we can't predict what's gonna happen 3 years from now.
Can we have like a quarterly or like twice a year where we actually look at this and make sure that it's on track? I think Jim might have mentioned that. But I want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're,
So it's in our capital, it's in the city's capital plan for additional $400,000 for paving next year.
400 and 400
Yep. So that's
plus whatever's left over from this year.
exactly, yep.
And I think that John was asking about Apple Grove, I think the bid was, or the engineer's estimate was 841. And then the bid was 508,949, and then the amount that the city's actually would end up paying is $50,895.
That sounds right.
That's right. That is correct.
Any other questions for Jim, Gina, legal? Appreciate the presentation.
Thank
the
you very
update.
much,
We'll be
Jim.
better.
Thank you.
All right, let's move into old business. Mr. Ott, will you please read the title of ordinance 18/2026?
An ordinance establishing chapter 165, real property transactions of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, thereby establishing provisions for the disposition of real property owned by the city.
Calls into the finance committee.
All right, we've talked about this quite a few times. Actually, it feels like this is probably more like the 7th or 8th reading as opposed to the 3rd reading. Maybe it's just the way it feels. But nonetheless, this is an item that talks about the disposition of real estate that the city owns. And there's been no changes, at least to my knowledge. Any questions or comments from members of council? I guess I move that we pass the 3rd reading of ordinance 18/2026.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Ott, will you please read the title of ordinance 19/2026?
An ordinance amending chapter 163, contracts and purchasing, specifically subsection 163.04A, purchases and contracts over the bidding threshold of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton, to remove the requirement of a voice vote of council for approval of contracts and purchases following Board of Control approval, to align more closely with the Board of Control's charter defined authority and ensure the timely approval of contracts and purchases.
Ordinance and Rules Committee, Mr. Frank.
Yeah, just basically just, as Liam said, removing the vote by council after Board of Control. And then we just asked that it would be shared with everyone in report form after the Board of Control's made a decision.
Admin like to add anything? Cover that?
No, I think that's correct.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
legal recommended that, and we'll bring it to you once Board Control do that approved.
Make a motion to move that forward.
Need to adopt second reading?
Yeah.
We have a motion to adopt second reading of 19/2026. Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Move into new business. I will make a motion to suspend Council Rule 23 to allow consideration of all items from the previous or preceding committee of the whole meeting. Is second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Liam, will you please read the title of Resolution 2026?
A resolution amending the rates and fees utilized to establish the budget for the 2026 fiscal year effective April 29th, 2026, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Moving back to finance.
All right, well, we talked about this just moments ago, and I can't possibly believe that there have been any changes since we talked about it. So would you like to talk about it any further, or? No? Okay. All right, so I would make a motion to adopt the first reading of resolution 2026.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will make a motion to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings. Get a second.
Second?
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2026 under suspension of the rules?
Motion to adopt?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Ott, will you please read the title of ordinance 21/2026?
An ordinance authorizing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the period beginning January 1st, 2026 and ending December 31st, 2026.
Yeah.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I don't think anything has changed on this one. And I think it makes sense we move this item forward, so I will give you a motion to move ordinance 21, or to pass first reading ordinance 21, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will make a motion to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I get a motion now to adopt 21-2026 under suspension of the rules?
Motion to adopt?
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, Mr. Ott, will you please read the title of ordinance 22-2026?
An ordinance amending section 1 of ordinance numbers 12-2026 and 13-2026 to adjust the full-time schedules of compensation in order to correct typographical errors and declaring the same to be an emergency.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory, so I will give you a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance 22, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will make the motion to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings. Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, can I get a motion to adopt ordinance 22-2026 under suspension of the rules?
Motion to adopt?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Ott, will you please read the title of ordinance 23-2026?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton, upon board of control approval, to enter into a guaranteed maximum price agreement with Beaver Constructors Incorporated for the construction of a new fire station at a cost not to exceed $11,469,883.89 and declaring the same to be an emergency.
All right, well, similar situation, and I'm very excited to give you your motion for items 23-2026 in the hopes of getting our firefighters the facility they need.
I did want to make a quick point. So this is an emergency, but I'm not asking you to pass on emergency tonight. We'll wait for the June 1st meeting. Just wanted to give legal a little bit more time to look at things, make any necessary amendments. We just received that late last week, but I did want to get it on committee and for a first read tonight so you guys could look it over, just so that we can be on schedule for the June 2nd groundbreaking.
Perfect.
Thank you for updating that.
And my motion still stands for 23-2026.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we didn't have anyone for public speaks in the first half, that's why we skipped over, it, but we do have people that want to speak for topics that are generally under city authority. So Mr. Ott, will you read the preamble?
At this time, members of the public who have signed up to address City Council will be called to do so. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. Speakers shall be called in the order they signed up. During this section, comments shall be limited to items reasonably under the city's authority. The rules for speaking and the speaker's time will appear on the screens. After you have finished speaking, please remain at the podium to answer questions from the officials at the dais.
Patterson, you were first on the list, and would you give us your name and address when you start, please?
Hi, everybody. Pat Patterson, 1754 Street, Cobble Falls. Going to report about the community walk first of all, and then get another matter as well. We had 4 on Mother's Day. I'm proud of that. Our next get together will be the 28th of June. We will meet at Pitcher Park. What we're going to do is we're going to preview the 2-mile YMCA race course. So, yeah, so that'll be fun. You know, bring your walking shoes, plenty of water, plenty of adrenaline or whatever, because part of that is Pershing Hill. So,
Fun.
have fond memories of that as a runner, going up that hill. Fully surpassed. Yeah, 2014, I actually did the whole course in like 41 minutes. I still can't figure out how I did that. Including, and I think the last mile was Pershing Hill. It's like 7:55. I can't explain that. Anybody find it interesting? wanted just to bring up something something in town that's near and dear to my heart that's gonna be happening in a couple weeks right across the street. The fishing rodeo. I believe it's number 55 this year. And having been the winner of number 9, as if I'm gonna age myself here. I caught a 22-inch pike out of that pond. I'm sure, I know Jeff's heard the story, all the tackle and everything that a lot of the neighborhood kids lost trying to catch that pike. And I caught it on a redworm. And I've still got people to this day mad. But this year's rodeo is on the 6th, the first Saturday of June. And I believe registration's 8, goes till 9. And our mayor will be casting the first line. We're gonna pretend that he's 62 or older for that cast. At 9 o'clock, the kids will follow up till 10:30 and the judging will happen after that. But like I said, having won number 9 all those years ago, it is something I still have the trophy. I'll have to dust that off and bring it out. So, I'm ready to face the nation.
What's the date again from the year you want?
It'll be the 28th, 8 a.m. It's your.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Heckards. Next.
I'm Sarah Heckert. My address 8220 West Wadora, Circle Northwest. I just know many of you, but I am majoring, getting my master's degree in public administration, so I'm snooping around the city more, often volunteering more, part of more community efforts and community events. And I just finished up my public budgeting class. So this is good timing tonight. And Gina, I hope you're somewhere warm, wherever you are. And I just wanted to say publicly, thanks to Catherine, thanks to Gina, huge thanks to Gina for just providing me so much information. All this, of course, as you guys know, on the website and on OpenGov about the budget. I learned so much. Gina, we got an A, girl. Like,
Did she hear
but I did. I just was extremely impressed with the whole budget process that you guys go through, starting from a year-based budget every year. It's a little insane, but I was just very impressed. I read a lot about the budget, the audit, did gobs and gobs of research, and yes, we got an A. But my professor was also very impressed with the budget and how we operate our budget here in North Canton. So congratulations to all of you for doing well, and thank you.
Awesome. Hey, I have a question. You say this was your first time at a city council meeting?
Yes, sir.
Well, you did a wonderful prayer. And I think, I'm just gonna make a motion or suggestion here. If you come back for your second meeting, maybe you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, thank you very much.
Where do you attend school?
I go to OU online. I did the same program that Ben did.
Okay.
So it's a combination of online and in person, which I really like, because I don't want to just be online. I want to meet other people working in public service. So we meet in Dublin at the OU campus once a month, and I meet other students from all over the state. So it's really fun to just, it's pretty cool. Yeah, every sector, some are from public, some are from city, Dublin, bigger cities, and some work in like the city of Toledo and the sewer department, just all kinds of different. So I'm learning so much exposure to all that's out there.
How far are you into your program?
I'm just in my first year, so I will graduate August of 27.
Okay.
And yay, we got an A. I'm so excited.
Gina's remote.
Did you hear her?
She did hear you.
Good. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. That's awesome. Yes.
I'll be here sooner, but it's baseball.
All right. That's what we have for public speaks. Let's move on to department reports. Mayor Stroy.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the prayer and your speaking. Thank you, Pat. The fishing rodeo is the 6th, and you'll have to bring the 9th annual award. Maybe bring it out to display to everybody. I wanted to say I appreciate the conversation that we had about the budget. I do feel there's things we can do better in communication. I think maybe some sort of, maybe a quarterly review of something or something. I feel like something's missing from that. I feel like, you know, like I have a different level of understanding of the budget just because of my background. And sometimes I expect people to have that, and that's not realistic. So I apologize for that. But I encourage everybody, maybe we can go through some open gov training together and look at the different budgets and how to access them, because it's real time and it's there. And finance is your committee. I mean, you guys finance reports to you. So I think maybe we need to do a little bit better on training so everybody can, you know, access those points. And then when it comes to your priorities, you know where everything stands to get a better picture of that. So whatever suggestions you guys have come up with, let's do it, because it's to me this just helps resolve any issues that we had this conversation. It was very, very effective, I thought, today. And thank you for your presentation, Jim. The Memorial Day Parade is coming up, so council is going to have their own group, which I think is awesome. That's been missing. Yeah,
It should be on a float.
yeah, mostly hybrid walking, but yeah. So I don't know where maybe I'll follow you guys or something. Like,
You're behind horses.
what's that?
Your own horse cleanup.
Oh, that's, you guys better not do that. I mean, come on, that's not good. I think that's all I've got. Oh, no, I want to talk about the Make-A-Wish event. And I'm sure everybody will talk about that. But can you imagine being a 6-year-old and having a helicopter come down to see you, the SWAT, the fire department, and then all your heroes at that time, and hopefully still today, are police and firemen. And then I have to come in and read a proclamation. Like, not super exciting, but I really enjoyed it. It was very emotional, but man, I can't imagine being a 6-year-old and going through that. That was one of the coolest experiences I think I've ever had. So thank you for all that were involved in making that happen. Just absolutely incredible. And that's all I got.
Director of Administration.
Thank you. So we had a great 7:20 yesterday, aside from the rain. I think it was okay. You know, it was people in the beginning, rain cleared out, and then some troopers came back. So that was great. And I'm glad you mentioned Memorial Day Parade, because we won't be meeting again, you know, until then. And I heard you were participating, but I didn't know if you guys were sitting on a car or what, but you're walking it. It's a short walk. Are you gonna have a little sign that says who you are, or like, you're just gonna say, who are these random people?
Mr. Pratt has volunteered his golf cart. So some of us may not be able to make
Okay.
the full thing for physical
But
reasons.
there is some signage saying
But
that
there'll
the
be some
council.
signage. Ms. Trotz put together some signage for us. We'll do a little decorating.
Be doing my best to bling it out.
How far we've come, and I just warms my heart you're doing this. I remember for years saying, like, why wasn't our council in the parade? Why are there elected officials? And I asked previous council before, and they were like, no. We're not gonna do that. So I'm so glad that you guys want to do it. I mean, you are elected by the people, so you might as well wave at them and hopefully bring some candy to give to the kids. So that'll be great. I just want to report that, Apple Grove project has started. You've seen it. They milled the 2 curb lanes today. They're going to mill the 2 inside lanes tomorrow. Keep going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, after holiday. It shouldn't be too long. It got until, I think, June 15th, but Rob reports that probably will be done before that. The polymer top coat, he does say, does need to be 65 degrees or higher for that to go down. So, like, who knows? It's like 80 today. I don't know. I've heard it's going down to 60. So, weather dependent again, but that wonderfully 90% grant covered project is a minor, inconvenience in traffic, but we'll get through it for it to be better eventually. Today, Mayor and I went to the Akron Canton Airport, and we got to meet with Ren Camacho, the CEO of the airport. We took along Tad Martinez, just because of the changing of the guards. They did so much with Brian up there. As you know, the airport is on our water, and they are our largest water customers. Of course, we were like, thank you for the revenue. And they brought their whole operations team with us, because again, those operational people knew Brian very well. Tad's been up there, been around some of the operational guys. I think it was the first time he met Ren, and just talked about, we have that booster station up there. That was one of Brian Hill's last water distribution projects. That's huge. Booster station's finished. the generator, so it's not operating independently yet until the generator gets going, but the generator's in place, and there's just a little bit more to do, and that will be done. And, just learned a little bit more about their operations up there, and, like their cool fires that they do, that they told us, they actually have, I think you say it was like a makeshift fuselage
Yeah, yeah.
that they pretend
I need
has
to get an
burst into
invitation to that.
flames.
That would be awesome.
And then they have their own fire, but they're gonna go on our fire suppression as soon as we finish that project up. And so they do that once a year, we said September, where they have to simulate that and then get into, get into positions to be able to handle something like that, should something like that happen. So I just finally want to say thank you to Sarah for me throwing her the, hey, can you do the prayer? Because Sarah wants to work in public. She's getting her master's in public administration, so I thought she would.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I wanted you to see things get thrown at you at any time. You get questions, you could get, and I think what you're learning in the program, because Sarah came in and she shadowed with us, and she said, I might want to work in public. And so Ben was talking to her, and he talked to her about his program at OU, and that's what got her that interest on that. And you downplayed yourself at the podium. She's quite a community person. She's in North Canton Chamber. She's in the Rotary. She's part of the downtown, the DART assessment team. She's a stakeholder there because there is a business owner on Main Street as well. So very involved in our community, and we appreciate it. And I think what you're learning is in your program, hopefully, about providing good public value. Being a public employee, we're all doing the best we can, and learning in your class about municipal financing, it's complex. And, I just want to say this discussion was really great. I think we've learned a lot from it. But like I said, we are all doing the best we can. If things weren't done correctly or right, or timing wasn't, or communication was lost, I just want to make sure that we do have these good conversations to respect both sides and just keep building that public trust, because public trust is huge. And, anytime we even give any kind of inclination that there's trust issues on either side, that affects us as a city. I mean, we're both trying to do the best thing for the city, right? Elected officials working for the constituents, and then we're working, to keep all the operations going with all the employees, and they're working to manage a, multi-million-dollar budget. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and things happen, and then we can look back and go, should we have done that, or could we have done better? But I think the dialogue is good. So thank you, Holly, for bringing it up. And then further, let's have we had a meeting about it, and then Jim did a presentation, and that's what my saying all the time when people make mistakes at work, because we've had mistakes. We've had operational mistakes, costly mistakes, issues, is, there are no perfect people. I can't hire a perfect person. We're human, and we may make a human error. It's how do we move on from that? Don't continue to make mistakes. Don't repeat ones you've made before, and learn from, what's transpired. So I think it was good that we had the conversation in the meeting, and you did a great job, Jim. That's all.
One question. How's the pool coming along?
The pool,
It'll be opening up
good
and
point.
stuff.
Memorial Day weekend is right upon us,
Right.
right? So Dogwood is filled. In fact, there may be an article coming out because a repository photographer showed up last week, and he got a picture, and he said, boy, that is some crystal clear blue water. And it does look nice, doesn't it? So it's doing well.
Okay.
It's still very cold. Ground temperatures need to come up. Steve reported to me it was 72 degrees. So, we've got a few more of these warm days will help it, but it's set to open Memorial Day weekend. I don't know what the weather is for that. Might be a little rainy. Arrowhead is also working on getting theirs. They're still repainting. They do have a concrete pool, no liner.
Right.
So they have a lot of little chips and repairs they had to do. Once that's set, then they had to paint. Then the paint's got to cure. And they needed like 3 consecutive days of no rain to do this. And that's been a challenge. But they're reporting to me that they also should be open on Memorial Day. So.
Good.
And the golf course looks great. If you haven't been up there, all of the restoration is done over by the well. So aside from the little issue on the green, if anyone saw,
Yeah.
it had some damage, which was unfortunate, but
The Cleveland News.
yeah, they made it on the
Did it
news.
really?
Yeah.
On Channel 5 today.
Multiple states.
Yep, that should be a good Memorial Day
Greens are
weekend.
sacred. Don't mess with a green.
Mayor will be doing his first Memorial Day ceremony, so it's not just the parade. We also wind up at Bitzer Park and have a nice memorial ceremony. Bennett Cannon, who is a Lions Club member, is the chairperson, Grand Poobah, I don't know what it's called, the guy that leads the parade. That's
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal, that's what it is. Grand Poobah. That's all.
Thank you. Would the Director of Finance like to add anything to the meeting?
No, I think Jim got it all covered really well tonight.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jim.
I just
Report.
want to say thank you for the opportunity to talk. I mean, you know, there's obviously always room for improvement, and I know we're excited to work with you guys into the budget, you know, later this year for next year. And you all know our door's always open. Come in, ask questions, call us. We're here for you guys. We're here to, you know, give you as much knowledge as we can. I know Jamie and I have plans to talk budget, just, you know, periodically, once a month or whatever that might be. So just come in, talk to us. You know, we're here for you guys. If you ever need anything, so thank you.
Thank you for your report again. Council Clerk.
Nothing relating to public business, but I did want to say that I went to the 720 market this weekend, and by the grace of the 720 people and their requests, was able to check off a major bucket list for me, which was witness the glory of the Wienermobile. That
Do you have your
made it-
whistle?
Yes, I did acquire a Wiener whistle, which I've always wanted. You can only get them from the Wienermobile people, so you have to see one. And I can only describe it as a spiritual experience to witness the Wienermobile. And I just want to wish the best of luck to New York Dog. That was the Wienermobile in attendance, one of 6, as they make their way to the Indy 500 for the Wienermobile race. So we got, you know, somebody that we can cheer for now since they've been here.
Did you bring your whistle?
I did not. It's in my office. That's one of my new prized possessions.
Excellent. Would the Director of Law like to follow that? Have anything to add for a report?
Go with that.
No, nothing from me this evening. Thank you, though.
Thank you for joining us. Let's move on to council reports. Mr. McLeister.
Number of things I wanted to talk about tonight, but, Mayor Story, you brought up, the Make-A-Wish, event. I really wish I was able to go to that. I just couldn't even imagine what they go through, and the way that the red carpet was rolled out for Dominic. I just thought it was incredible. And I wasn't even planning on saying anything, but you brought it up, and I was just so moved by the photos that were on Facebook. So, what a fantastic job you guys did rolling out the red carpet for them. So, I want to thank Jim and Gina for the discussion this evening, for the multiple conversations we've had this past week. So thank you both very, very much for the time, energy, and effort you put into you know, communicate this to the public. So thank you. So the items that I wanted to just share this evening was one, the 720 market. This is their 10th year. I was there the very first event. I helped pour beer with the JCs, and we were super excited to go. I was looking forward to some jalapeno poppers from Uncle Bacon's. Like literally, I was looking forward to them all week. We were moments from getting into the car and it started raining, and that took the wind out of the sails. So I hear that what Liam, you said you went back up later, and I guess we should have gone up
shortly around 1, 2 o'clock, and it cleared out.
Well, we missed our opportunity, but nonetheless, I wish them, you know, much success as they go on with their 10th year. Wanted to also bring up, because this is a conversation item that somebody, I've had people ask me this over the years, and I never knew where to turn until I saw it on Facebook. Veterans Memorial bricks, as we're coming up here to Memorial Day, they're actually available through the North Canton Heritage Society. So northcantonheritage.org/store, you can go in and buy one. The big caveat for those listening at home and in our in-studio audience, today is the deadline. So, so pull out your phones and go to the website right now and order your Veterans Memorial bricks. But I just wanted to put that out there because I've had people ask me in the past, how do you obtain a brick for the Veterans Memorial? The last piece of that is yesterday, Mayor and I joined Doug, who also is with the North Canton Heritage Society, and we're looking at some heritage trail locations for future placards. And I'm only bringing that up, one, because it was great to walk around the city drinking a Dora beer while we were talking about local history. But I just think that Doug is somebody who doesn't get enough. I mean, I think everybody knows Doug and loves Doug, but I just don't think that he gets enough praise, and just the wealth of knowledge that man has and his dedication and love for all things history in this community. So I just wanted to thank him for the opportunity to be able to work with him yesterday. So it's exciting. That's all I got.
Thank you. Ms. Wyrick?
All right, I was gonna touch on the Memorial Day Parade, which has been mentioned, but I can tell you that Joe Chevreau from the Lions Club did assure me that we will be ahead of the horses. So pretty excited about that.
Good.
And then the Dogwood Pool does open on May 23rd, and pool pass prices increase that day. So you want to get those by the 22nd if you're getting a pool pass. I'm just gonna keep saying what everyone's already said. The 720 was fantastic. Just so grateful for Dave and Lynn Shimko and what they've built there. I was there working for the library in the morning, and then there was a torrential downpour, but I walked back over later in the day and hung out with, well, I don't know if I hung out with New Berlin, but by New Berlin's stand. So that was a really good time. And then Sarah, I was going to, like Catherine, mention that, you know, thank you for jumping in and saying a prayer for us with no warning. I'm highly impressed. And also mention that Sarah and her husband own Koala Cruisers, which is a local business that has grown tremendously under Sarah's leadership. So just wanted to thank you for being here and for all you do. That's all.
Mr. Orr?
Okay, thank you. Thanks to everyone who came out tonight. For the speakers, Sarah, thank you so much. Jim, nice presentation. It was really good. That's all I have. That was the first 720 market I've missed. I've been to all of them, and we were in Charlottesville over the weekend, so I missed that one. So. But the Shimkos did a great job.
Ms. Pierpont?
Okay, I'm gonna echo Sarah. You did fantastic tonight. I was like, wow, as we're praying. That was beautiful and very impressive what you're doing and working with the budget department here. That's very neat to hear about. Our city's working with a citizen to help them with that. That's great. So best wishes to you on that. I was gonna say, for those that don't know, this week is National EMS Week. So if you see our guys and our gals out and about, say thank you. They are the true heroes. I'm a little bit of a geek. I listen to Dispatch when I get a chance, and I couldn't even tell you how many times a day those people are out responding to calls. It's phenomenal. So thank you to them this week. And on the same note with EMS, this week is the second annual North Canton EMS conference. This is something that we're holding locally, and I believe others can come to it and they can receive training, renew some of their certifications. I'm going to brave that conference myself and learn, so maybe I can come back and share some of what I learned. But I'm just excited to be there and learn more about these people that we support. So I'll report back on that. The 720, I go to a lot of them. I can't even tell you, that had to be the most packed 720 I've ever been to. I was super excited that I actually struggled to find a parking spot. So that meant we had a lot of people here in our city. Despite the threat of the dark skies, they did shop, they did eat. So hopefully our vendors had some good successes. And we have a lot of vendors that are very loyal to that market, and they definitely come back to North Canton a lot. And so thank you to all of them for the way that they come to this community and bring people into it. That's really a great thing. I did not get to see the Wienermobile, and I'm very upset about that. So we'll have to talk. Something I was going to talk about too, that I hear a lot of people talking about, and I had the same experience this week, is it is a warm weather season now, and we do have solicitors out in our neighborhoods. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm super aware of it. It seems like there's a real uptick in it. And so anybody that's not aware, we do have a permit process here in the city. A solicitor or a company has to go to City Hall, apply for that, be approved, and then they communicate that out. They put it out on the website, and they also put it out through the text message system. So the good news is that if that roof person comes to your house and they don't have a permit with us, you can ask them to see their permit. They have to be able to show that to you. And my experience this week was with somebody, I don't even remember, maybe the solar panels, I don't know what it was, had a really nice gentleman at my doorstep. And I just said, hey, by the way, do you have a permit? And he just kind of looked at me, he goes, do you mean for the city of Green? And I'm thinking, no, we're in North Canton. And so I walked him through it, and he's like, oh, it's in my truck. And I think I understood that he probably didn't have one. And I was like, you should probably go back to your truck and get your permit. Long story short, 20 minutes later, as I'm leaving my house to go somewhere, he's at the end of my street, still at it. And I did call the non-emergency line because I had given him a warning. Essentially, I wasn't going to be that person, but I was like, he's still doing it and he's pestering my whole street. So I did call, and they did handle it, and they did check first to see, is there any with that description, that company that has a permit. And if not, they do go out and they talk to these people. So I know I'm not the only one calling that line. So thank you to your people. That sounds like a really petty thing to some people to have to talk about it, but we take care of it. And I think that's one of the unique things about our communities, that we don't have to worry about that as much. The Make-A-Wish event was phenomenal. And I think I knew going into it that it was going to be great. But really, I gathered over there by Dogwood. I saw that helicopter fly in, which we don't ever see that here in this town. So that was unique in itself. I felt like a little kid, but to watch Dominic's eyes through him, that experience was extra special. And I just want to say, beginning to end, I know he was here for quite some time, doing all the innings and outings of everything that we do. Anybody and everybody in the city who had a part to doing that, thank you. Because I knew that left a lasting impression on him and his family. So that was excellent. And then on the last topic, thank you, Jim, for the presentation tonight. I know that these conversations probably are not easy for any of us. I think it's great that we all take accountability when things don't go the way that we had planned. And, as somebody who's representing the citizens, that's my job to ask those tough questions. And as somebody who's working in finance or city or whatever, it's your job to be able to also say, hey, this didn't work as it planned, and now we can fix this. So I think it did work out well. I really appreciate the meeting over the week that we had to come together before this. All of that was definitely a team effort, and so that is not lost on me. And we truly do have great people in finance. I think we have the extra special people in finance here in North Canton. So thank you for all of that. And I do look forward to the future budget discussions. If I think of things that I think we can come up with in my first year, I will absolutely let you know. But we'll continue to watch it. So thank you again for that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Brent.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess just to touch base on the road concerns as well. I'm constantly calling in potholes and curbs and things like that. And Liam's been, as I said before, he's been very helpful in taking note of those and getting those out. So I am worried about it. And when people vote on something, I want to make sure that they're getting what they're supposed to be getting. And so I'm happy to hear that the city won't settle for less than what they were promised. I'm happy that we won't settle for less because, I'm a voter as well. And I want to make sure that the streets where I live are nice. People are accustomed to clear streets in the winter and nice streets in the summer. In the winter, they're hard to keep up around here. We've got a lot of dedicated people on the road crews. They're out working with a new milling machine now. And so the progress is good that way. But I just want to make sure that we absolutely give the people what they opted for. And so thanks to Jim and Gina for the presentation, just to make it extremely clear where we're at. look forward to getting updates as maybe as we hit timelines throughout the year. Thank you for that. As far as, I guess, other things that I wanted to mention, I met with a citizen in regards to maybe getting some more sidewalk put in. I know getting sidewalks put in, is not exactly an easy thing to do, or it's probably pretty much cost prohibitive. There's a small section that would basically make it, over on Jonathan, it would make it it would be walkable from the old Orchard Hill School down to the traffic light at Jonathan and Everhard. It's on the opposite side. But if we went a few more houses, we could have essentially a sidewalk the whole way. So I thought it might be worth at least looking at. Look forward to having a conversation with you guys just to kind of get your thoughts on it. But I thought there could be a value in making that area walkable, because it is a busy cut through street there. And there is a lot of foot traffic. The speed sign is still on Salway, following up on a previous traffic complaint that the chief's been helping few different people with over there, so I appreciate that. It seems, at least every time that I go through there, it seems under control. I'm not there during, maybe some of the peak times, so I look forward to seeing what kind of a report or something like that we get back from that machine. Also wanted to say thanks to Terry Gorski. I was at, she works at in City Hall there. When you come upstairs, she was in the process of clearing my old phone that had been given me for a short time and sending it back in for $40. So I thought that was notable, that even on the scale of a city, that she was taking the extra steps to be mindful of $40 that it didn't, be lost. So I appreciate that. Wanted to say thank you. Nothing else.
Thank you. And Mr. Stalker.
Okay, thanks. Thank you to Sarah and Pat for speaking tonight, everyone else for coming out. Thank you, Jim, for your presentation. Thank you to everyone who was involved in the Make-A-Wish. I don't know why I thought it would be wise to skip the chopper landing. I did. I went to the swearing in, which, by the way, Mayor, that was great. I think he got down to his level. I think he liked it. I think he enjoyed it. I know his parents did, so thank you for doing it. I'm also very much looking forward to walking with all the other members of council parade. A couple things I wanted to talk about. It is tall grass season. We had a lot of rain and now we're getting some heat. Last week I had a resident who reached out to me and she had a concern about tall grass, vacant lot in her neighborhood. And with Liam's help, this is now on the city's radar. And while it's obviously extremely important that we're kind of keeping on top of tall grass and tall weeds, and of course primarily for health reasons, I would ask that if you're a resident and you see another neighbor's yard that's, say, normally well kept, if it's maybe a little bit overgrown this year, before you reach out to the city, maybe just go ask if you can help. It might be a physical situation, it might be a financial situation, but just ask, see if you can help. If you can't, then maybe you can get a hold of us and we'll help. Yeah, that'd be my first recommendation. Last night was graduation at Memorial Stadium. So congratulations to the Hoover class of 2026, and that includes my own daughter, Erin. It was definitely a joy to see students and their families celebrating not only their individual success, but their collective success as classmates and friends. The evening was absolutely highlighted by 4 student speakers, the class president, along with, the SUMA speeches. They highlighted the arts, academics, and athletics. And as the saying goes, when one door closes, another door opens. So as any good Viking is looking to do, good luck on their next year. And then lastly, like basically everyone else, I would like to talk about the 720. I had some morning obligations, so I missed the super busy time. And so after those obligations and the rainstorm, my wife and I ventured down. And because it wasn't nearly as busy when we were there as what it was in the morning, apparently, I did have an opportunity to have some pretty significant conversations or at-length conversations with some of the vendors that I was purchasing from. Just of note, a husband and wife team, they come over and all the time from Warren. They own a candle company. They rave about 720 in North Canton. I also hung out for a bit with one of our favorite North Canton cookie bakers and our favorite North Canton brewer. They all raved about 720 and frankly, more importantly, they raved about being involved in North Canton City Center. And that's really what I kind of wanted to talk about. I also had the pleasure of meeting 3 North Canton residents who happen to be under the age of 40. And I think that these 3 gentlemen all kind of show what our city center can become. 2 of these residents, they already live in the downtown area, one with his wife and their 2 young children, and another who has just returned to town after being away for 12 or so years after he went to college in Colorado and then lived out in Colorado and then eventually moved to Phoenix, Arizona. But all 3 of them talked about what makes North Canton special to them. The walkability, the easy access to the parks, to the downtown events such as the Summer Music Thursdays, City Hall Portico, obviously 720. The overall community spirit that North Canton has, there's all of those things that are very important to them, and I think what is important to a lot of people. And it shows that additional commitment and investment, what additional commitment and investment can do for this. So I feel like it's an extremely exciting time in the city. There's a lot of really good things that are happening, a lot of positive momentum. And I am just want to say that I'm very enthusiastic about collaborating with all members of council and the administration as we look ahead with the growth mindset.
Thank you very much. Okay, conclude the reports. I look around and we've had some great discussions. We've had awesome input from admin, finance. Conversations have been good for the city as a whole. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up another hard decision that's going to be facing us in the near future. And our finance department has talked about that. Our enterprise funds, the water and sewer, we talked about that 25% requirement for our reserves and how we got it up to 38, and then the bond, people were saying it needs to be higher than that. I believe our reserve funds for our enterprise funds, being water and sewer, need to be at 100%. We're not there right now, and it's going to require some very hard decisions. And everything's getting more expensive, and we are going to have to do some due diligence on how we're going to be able to meet these requirements. Yes.
Yep. So we're going through a rate study right now, and we will bring that to you guys next month.
Okay.
In terms of where we're at financially with the water and sewer, and what our engineers who are helping us with this rate study believe that we should do for water rates and sewer rates. So we'll be bringing that to you guys next month. It should be finalized here shortly. So.
Yeah, we're quickly approaching our summer break, and then we come back to the budget time, and a lot of decisions need to be made. We need to put those dollars where they're promised, where they're needed, and to make our city as strong as possible. That is my report. Final call for new business. Let's look at the meeting calendar. We will not have a meeting on Monday. We'll be walking in the parade. Monday, I'm not sure my legs will be able to get me to the meeting that night. June 1st, I do want to bring up that there'll be a city council meeting. I too, as my co-council person here had a business trip to Florida. I do have a business trip to Florida that week. I won't be here. Ms. Wyrick will be running the meeting on Monday. I am, however, gonna find a way to spend the weekend on the beach, since I'm gonna be down in Florida for 4 days for a meeting. So won't be here on the 1st, and then we will have a committee of the whole meeting on June 8th. That's what we've got coming up. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?